and welcome to A Closer Look. I'm your host, Linda Fontaine. Today, my special guests are Representative Timothy Hill, District 3, and Representative Matthew Hill, District 7, and just happen to be brothers.
Yes.
That's right.
In fact, you guys have broken records doing that.
Well,
or a record.
Yes, once Timothy came along, we were able to proudly say we're the only brothers that have ever served in the House of Representatives at the same time.
That's an awesome thing to do. I bet your mama's proud of you.
She is. She is.
Well, first off, let's talk to you, Timothy, about the Aerospace Park.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal that's going on. And tell us, for those that aren't familiar with it, tell us what it is.
So I serve the 3rd House District, and that's part of Sullivan County, all of Johnson County, part of Carter counties. Part of my district is the airport. And so I've been very proud to serve the airport and try to protect the interests, make sure that if there's any legislation come through over the years, we do good things for the airport. Well, all of a sudden, I went in for a visit one day, and they said, hey, we've got a bill for you. What do you think? And fantastic idea. The vision for Aerospace Park literally took flight. And we were able to first pass a piece of legislation that allowed the local stakeholders to come forward and basically participate in the process, which they did in a huge way. And then the state has come along in 2 different rounds of Tennessee Department of Transportation grants actually fund the largest portion, so the state's the largest stakeholder in the project, to be able to get 160 acres ready, to be able to recruit high-paying jobs right into my district, but really the region as a whole, because it's not just about Aerospace Park and what's at the airport, but it's also about the ancillary benefits. It's very aerospace, depending on what comes into the facility. You could be looking at ancillary jobs and different plants locating, and it's really a legacy opportunity. And I was so encouraged to see so many people, everybody from local governments to economic development folks, to state folks, to county commissioners, I mean, just name it, folks getting on board, because anyone that sits down and looks at the project understands how important that it is. And so to be able to participate in that, it's a once in a lifetime, legislator's lifetime opportunity and activity. And so we're excited to see where it is going. Recently there was another $1.6 million announced to try to finish the pads and the utilities and the road work that has to get done. But we're going to be even more excited when we cut the ribbon with the first employer that comes through.
And when will that be, you think?
Well, that remains to be the question. So the first part that has to get done is making the site ready. And then once that happens, I know recruitment's going on day in and day out by the couple of different regional economic development folks, from networks to the folks in Washington County. But it's all the above, and that's part of what makes the site so interesting, because it is truly the community coming together to try to see good things happen.
So do we have anybody signed on yet? Do we have prospects that we're looking at?
The funny thing about economic and community development work and job recruitment is it's always whispers, and it's, oh, it might be this person or it might be that person. We'll know as soon as we can share with everybody what's going on. But I can say this, the recruitment efforts are heavy because there are not that many of those types of sites in the entire country. And the Tri-Cities and the entire region has a tremendous workforce, folks that want to work and they work hard. And the opportunity is here. And so I don't think it'll be all that long before we see and get to hear about folks' interest as far as employers are concerned.
How many jobs are you hoping to bring to the area?
Well, a lot of it depends on who decides to take the plunge and come partner and join in. But I've seen estimates as far as on that site as high as 2,000. And there's just not that many places in the region that has, that has that type of firepower, if you will. And so that's just on the site. That doesn't include anything that could come along with it. Very similar to the automotive industry. There's a metric of so many jobs per jobs that are inside the plant, jobs outside the plant. And so we're just excited about the prospect. It's a process.
Yes.
It's going to take a minute, but with each season that passes and with each month that passes, we're just closer and closer.
I think this is so exciting. We need some more industry coming into the area too. So that'd be nice to start bringing in some prospects that might help it grow.
That's right. That's right. Well, I've heard folks not be so happy of this type of sector of job or that type of sector of job. We're all about fostering an environment for job. Government does not create jobs. What government does is it fosters an environment for growth, and then folks take risk and they do it on their own. And this is as much as I think we can do to set the stage, to encourage people to come to Northeast Tennessee, encourage them to come with aerospace jobs, which are high-paying jobs, average wage $60,000, $70,000, just depending on who comes and what type of industry or part of the industry that they're in. But you got to start somewhere, and you got to draw the line somewhere. And the community, the region, has done that on this project, and so we'll just see where it goes.
That's awesome. So economic development. Talk to me. What do you see? What's going on, Matthew? What have you got going?
Well, I see a lot of regionalism. There's not just talk about it, but you see some real results of that. One of the big areas is recently we were able to announce a $2 million grant for a railway spur in downtown Johnson City.
Yes.
Now, when you hear that, you're like, okay.
Yeah, what's that mean?
Is that helpful? Well, it's helpful to A.O. Smith, which is American Water Heater, which employs hundreds and hundreds of people. It's helpful to Johnson City Chemical, and the reason is it allows them through the rail line, through this new rail spur, to be able to bring in materials and be able to transport them in a cheaper way, to make their processes more efficient, and to hopefully, we're not promising, but hopefully through this new rail spur, and as they make their processes more efficient, be able to expand and add more jobs. But even if they're not able to add more jobs, which we feel pretty confident that they're going to be able to do in some fashion, what it does though is it really reaches the commitment that you hear all the time about, well, we want to recruit new businesses, but we also want to support the existing businesses. And sometimes some people feel like, well, that support of existing businesses is not there. Well, that right there is an example of $2 million that is going to support existing businesses. And it's really, really a big deal, because I took a tour of A.O. Smith a while back, and they were talking about how their company, which is a global company, was talking about how they're always pushing to be more efficient, whether it's green technology, whether it's more training for their current employees, the types of materials they use to make their products, which they manufacture on site there in Johnson City. And this rail spur line is going to be able to help do that. And so that is a way of supporting existing industry. Now, to recruiting of new industry, you see the redevelopment of places like Bristol, of downtown Johnson City, which I'm very familiar with. And it's one of those things where it's not, and there's nothing wrong with this, what I'm about to say. We love restaurants. Restaurants are great. Retail is great. But you're also starting to see a lot of people move into the loft apartments, into the reconditioned, maybe condos, townhouses, places like that. But they're also bringing in professional white-collar type businesses, not just law offices, but logistical, accounting, CPA firms, things like that. And that then has that ripple effect of bringing other jobs in. Another project for economic development in Washington County is the Boones Creek exit on Interstate 26. We've been working on that for a number of years now. They're supposed to start construction maybe after everything thaws out a little bit, but to be able to fix that exit so that semi-trucks can turn left, and so that the volume of traffic, which is pretty heavy in the mornings and afternoons, will be able to flow freely. There are reports of different business entities that have indicated they might like to locate there once the congestion issue is fixed, which is the exit. Plus, I've been approached by a group of developers that are interested in taking a real strong look at that. There's some farmland there that is for sale for commercial use, to be used for mixed use, not just retail, but also commercial, retail, I don't know, maybe industrial as well, but executive type businesses as well. And that's the kind of thing that we need to have, because we have a real challenge right now, and that challenge is population. I recently was able to look at a report that the Comptroller's Office put out, and it showed that Sullivan County's population growth is basically flat. Washington County has increased by a couple tenths of a percent.
Wow.
And so, and the counties around us in our region are losing population. Well, we have to deal, and it's all encompassing, the opioid epidemic, the workforce development issue. We have people, like Timothy said, we have people in our region that are good, hardworking men and women that want a good paying job. Well, we have to be able to deal with opioids, the education issue, and then get the jobs to come here, stay here, and grow here.
Yeah, we have to create the jobs for them to work at.
That's right.
But I had Roe on not long ago, and talking about the opioid problem is really devastating to what's going on in this area.
Well, and there's some legislation to try to, we've done some in the past with the Controlled Substance Database to track the top prescribers in the state to maybe help them understand that maybe let's look at their practices for prescribing, things like that. But another bill that's a new bill that's going to be filed next week is the bill dealing with combination locks on opioid pill bottles, and it's a plastic top.
Interesting.
There's several manufacturers that do this across the country, and what it does is if you get prescribed an opioid and you are concerned that maybe your children, grandchildren, maybe neighbor people might want to, because that's one of the biggest threats is people stealing the drugs after they've already been properly prescribed. Well, what this legislation would do is let these pill bottles provide a real level of safety.
Okay, we're going to get into that because that sounds like a really interesting thing that's going on. So we'll be back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere, and we have a lot to talk about with the Hill brothers.